Using a Eurail Pass in Switzerland? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? Guess you'll have to keep watching to find out. But before we get too carried away sharing opinions, let's make sure we're on the same page. What exactly is a Eurail Pass?
The Eurail Pass is, you guessed it, a rail pass designed for travel throughout Europe. There's a Eurail Global Pass that's valid for travel throughout 33 different European countries, including Switzerland. And there are one-country passes made for travel within a single country, but unfortunately, there isn't a one-country option for Switzerland. The Eurail Global Pass is available year-round, and there are options for quite a few different lengths of time. The continuous passes are available for 15 days, 22 days, 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months in a row. The Flexi Passes allow you to travel for 4, 5, or 7 days of your choice within a 1-month period, or 10 or 15 days within a 2-month period. Eurail passes are available for first class or second class travel, and a unique perk of these passes is the discounted pricing for a few age groups. Youth under the age of 27 get 25% off the standard adult prices, and seniors over the age of 60 get 10% off.
Now, everything we've just said about the Eurail Global Pass is also true of the Interrail Global Pass. So what's the difference? Well, the Eurail Pass is only available to non-European residents, while the Interrail Pass is only for European residents. But they're effectively the same pass. So for the rest of this video, even though we're only going to be referring to the Eurail Pass, just know that everything we say still applies to both the Eurail Global Pass and the Interrail Global Pass. Before I explain how the Eurail Pass works in Switzerland, let me introduce myself. I'm Brett, and my wife Jana and I live near Interlaken. In this channel, Aplins in the Alps exists to help you travel Switzerland with confidence. And one of my particular areas of expertise is hardcore nerding out on all things Swiss transportation. But I'm not just here to give my personal opinions. I let the numbers speak for themselves. I've run literally hundreds of sample trip itineraries through my super nerdy spreadsheet to calculate the raw data. And then I use that information to help you pick the best transportation pass for your trip to Switzerland. We talk about more Swiss transportation passes in our other videos, but today we're just gonna stay focused on the Eurail Pass.
So here's how it works in Switzerland in general. Trains between cities and towns throughout Switzerland are 100% covered by the Eurail Pass, but that's where the simplicity ends. Boats are mostly 50% discounted, although some are 100% covered and some are not discounted at all. Mountain trains and cable cars usually come at a 25% discount, but sometimes have a 50% discount, and other times you'll have to pay full price. And buses aren't covered by the Eurail Pass at all.
Which brings me to the first important question. If Switzerland is the only destination you'll be visiting in Europe, is buying a Eurail Pass for your trip a good idea or a bad idea? The answer is pretty simple. It's a bad idea. And that's because I want you to think about the Eurail Pass as a European rail pass and not specifically as a Swiss train pass. It's best for trips covering significant distances throughout multiple European countries, and it's always a bad idea to buy a Eurail Pass if you're only going to visit Switzerland. Well, actually, there is one rare exception where it would be perfect to buy a Eurail Pass even if you're just visiting Switzerland. I told you I'm nerdy about numbers, but I'll get to that in a moment. So if you're only coming to Switzerland, I give you full permission to stop watching this video, even though it's gonna hurt the algorithm, dadgummit, and switch to this one instead, where we help you understand all the different Swiss train passes and dish out our free Swiss train pass checklist to help you pick the best pass for your itinerary. But of course, stick around if you want the rest of the juicy secrets. If you're still with me, I'm glad you're here. If you're already planning to buy a Eurail Pass for other countries in Europe, there are two big questions you might still have. Should you buy extra days so your Eurail Pass will cover your trip to Switzerland in addition to your other European adventures? And if you have unused days left over on your Eurail Pass, is it a good idea to use them in Switzerland? Now, my level of nerditude is only focused on Switzerland, so I'm not equipped to tell you if it's a good idea or a bad idea to buy a Eurail Pass for trips to Italy or France or anywhere else in Europe. But I definitely can answer those two questions for you, starting with some of the more popular regions in Switzerland.
First up is the Jungfrau Region. For starters, the Eurail Pass 100% covers train travel to Interlaken, Grindelwald, and Lauterbrunnen, travel from Lauterbrunnen up to Wengen and Mürren, and boat rides on Lake Brienz and Lake Thun. The Eurail Pass gives a 50% discount on rides to Grindelwald Fürst, Schönnige Platte, and Harder Kuhl. But there's only a 25% discount on the train from Grindelwald to Kleine Scheidegg to Wengen, the Eiger Express, the train to Jungfrau Joch, the cable cars to Mannlichen, the entire Schilthorn cable car line, and the funicular to Ammentubel. And there's no discount for bus rides throughout the region, the cable car to Pfingstegg, the steam train to the Brienzer Rothorn, or the trip up to Oceanensee.
To answer question number 1, should you buy extra days so your Eurail Pass will cover your trip to the Jungfrau region in addition to your other European adventures? If you'll have a 4, 5, or 7 day Eurail Pass and you're planning up to 3 days in the Jungfrau region, then it's a good idea. The numbers just make sense. But I'll be honest, we live in the Jungfrau region and it's one of the best places to visit in Switzerland. So you're definitely gonna want more than 3 days there. But for those trips of longer than 3 days, it's a bad idea to buy extra days just so you can use your Eurail Pass here. For example, if you follow our 1-week guide to the Jungfrau region, you'll spend over 400 francs on the cost of tickets alone with the Eurail Pass. Now, that's 50 francs cheaper than if you had purchased a Swiss half fare card and used it to buy half price tickets. But then you still have to factor in the cost of adding more days to your Eurail Pass. And because of that extra cost, it quickly becomes a bad idea. By the way, I'm curious how many of you are actually buying a Eurail Pass for trips of a week or less. In fact, would you leave us a comment if you are planning to buy a Eurail Pass and let us know how many days it's going to be for and where you'll be traveling. Knowing the types of trips you're planning just really helps us to cater our content to provide you with the best tips and recommendations. And it gives me more itineraries to add to my geeky spreadsheet. To answer question number 2, let's say you're taking that big Euro trip and you'll have unused days on your Eurail Pass when you arrive in Switzerland. Is it a good idea to use those free days in the Jungfrau region? Of course, if your plans only include the routes that are 100% covered, then this is a good idea. And even if you're going to take all 3 of the rides that are only 50% covered, I think it's still a good idea. But if you start taking lots of the rides that are only 25% discounted or not discounted at all, or if those free days left over on your pass will only cover part of your time in Switzerland, then this is where it starts to get dicey and it's probably going to quickly become a bad idea. If you're not careful, you could end up spending more money with your Eurail Pass than if you had just bought a different pass in the first place.
Now let's head toward the Italian border to look at how the Eurail Pass performs in Zermatt. And this one's pretty simple. The Eurail Pass 100% covers train travel to Zermatt. But once you're in Zermatt, there are no discounts. That's right, you'll have to pay full price to visit Gornergrat and Matterhorn Glacier Paradise and to ride on the Senega Rothorn line, even if you have a valid Eurail Pass.
So does it ever make sense to use a Eurail Pass here? No, bad idea. You should never add extra days to a Eurail Pass just to cover your time in Zermatt, nor should you ever use those leftover free days either, because you'd still be paying full price anyway. So should you just pay full price for all of your transportation in Zermatt? Just a quick reminder that all of our Swiss travel guides contain detailed recommendations of which train pass or train pass combination to buy, as well as how much you could expect to spend in transportation costs if you follow our itineraries.
So what about a visit to Lucerne in central Switzerland? The Eurail Pass 100% covers train travel to Lucerne and throughout the region. but it only gives a 50% discount to Mount Pilatus, Mount Rigi, and boat rides on Lake Lucerne. And the Eurail Pass offers 25% off on rides to Mount Titlis and the Stanzerhorn. But there's no discount, for example, for bus rides throughout the region or to reach the Stoss Ridge hike.
So should you buy extra days so your Eurail Pass will cover your trip to central Switzerland in addition to your other European adventures? Once again, it's a good idea if you already plan to have a 4 to 7 day Eurail Pass and you really just want to add an additional day or two for travels around Lucerne. But beyond that, it's a bad idea because you'll end up spending more money adding additional days to your Eurail Pass than if you had just paid full price for tickets or bought a separate train pass. And if you'll have unused days on your Eurail Pass, is it a good idea to use them near Lucerne? I don't know. You have to ask Jana. Of course it's a good idea if all you'll do is travel throughout the region by train on routes that are 100% covered. And even if you want to take a few mountain rides or boat rides, then it's probably still a good idea for a few days, but you'll need to price this out compared to simply buying another train pass. Remember earlier when I said that buying a Eurail Pass for a trip just to Switzerland is always a bad idea, with one exception? Well, here's that one exception. If you're coming to Switzerland and plan to hop around from one city to another, covering lots of ground and concentrating your train travel into a handful of high volume travel days, then the Eurail Pass is probably a good idea. And if you focus your trip on multiple Swiss scenic train rides, or you're traveling into or out of Switzerland from another country, then that's likely also a good idea. For example, the Eurail Pass 100% covers all train travel between cities, and popular scenic trains like the Glacier Express, Golden Pass Express, Bernina Express, and the Luzerne Interlaken Express. Although I do need to point out that the Eurail Pass covers your tickets on these panoramic trains, but you will need to book and pay for your seat reservations separately. But check this out. Let's look at a sample itinerary where you spend 4 days riding some of the most expensive city-to-city and scenic train routes. So let's say on day 1, you arrive to the Zurich airport and travel to Interlaken. And then on day 2, you go from Interlaken to Zermatt. On day 3, you ride the Glacier Express. And then on day 4, you take the Bernina Express out of Switzerland. If you paid full price for just these 4 rides alone, you'd spend 429 francs. But a 4-day Eurail Global Flexi Pass costs just 265 francs. And the price would be even better if you qualify for senior or youth discounts. Now you're probably thinking, why wouldn't I just use the Swiss Travel Pass? Wouldn't that be even better? Well, a 4-day Swiss Travel Pass Flex for adults costs 339 francs. And the Eurail Pass is actually cheaper than a Swiss Travel Pass in every case until you get to the 15-day pass length. And a bonus for our European viewers, there's actually an Interrail One Country Pass just for Switzerland. It's available as a Flexi Pass for 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8 days within a 1-month period. And using this sample itinerary, it beats both the Eurail Global Pass and Swiss Travel Pass by a landslide. In fact, a 3-day Interrail Switzerland Pass is cheaper than the cost of one full-price ticket on the Glacier Express. So if you're a European resident, this could be a very, very good idea. Man, I love being a nerd. Now, it's important to mention that this would be a very unique trip, and I just picked it to make an example. It's definitely not an itinerary I would recommend because there's just way too much amazing stuff to see in Switzerland to race through the country like that. And even though the Eurail and Interrail passes are cheaper than the Swiss Travel Pass, they can quickly become a bad idea if you plan to ride more than a few routes that aren't 100% covered, because even the discounted ticket prices can quickly add up. But to be honest, I think the better comparison is to see how the Eurail Pass holds up against other options like the Swiss Half Fare Card or some of the popular regional train passes. And speaking of those other options, That's exactly why we created our ultimate guide to Swiss train passes, which includes a step-by-step checklist to ensure that you get your ideal balance of cost savings and convenience for wherever your itinerary takes you in Switzerland. So watch that next, and we'll see you in Switzerland.